Good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday, and welcome to another episode of Tea and Coffee with Paula and
Jay. And my lighting's a little bit off. Sorry, folks. I'm not sure quite what it is yet. We put the studio back together first thing this morning, half last night. So I'll have to fix that. I have a dark side. Ooh, I have a dark side.
Dun, 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 dun.
Good morning.
Morning. Good morning.
Have you been? Oh, we lost the camera.
Oh.
Have you been busy?
Yes, we've been very busy. Yesterday was, oh my goodness. So yesterday, folks, we did, actually, no, not yesterday, day before. We took apart the studio because we said we were going to be putting the walls up. So we started working on that, but we didn't finish it. And so yesterday morning, we're working at it. And because in our minds, we've got to get to Whistle Stop Cafe. And it just delayed. Then we said we need to take a break, so let's go ahead. And we end up getting there probably closer to maybe about 4 o'clock. So thank you very much for everyone who was there, and of course, who welcomed us. We saw some familiar faces, we saw some new faces, so it was really great to see you all there. And it was a great event at the Whistle Stop. Those who stayed over the days because they were doing a long weekend event. So yeah, it was great to see you. So yeah, don't worry, Jason is just fixing the other camera, so you're stuck with me. So actually, while he's doing that, so shout out to Whistle Stop Cafe. Shout out to the Whistle Stop Cafe, and there's their X handle as well for putting on the event. Shout out, caught another great performance by Ruth Purvis Smith. There's her handle as well on X. And then, he's realized what it is. And then there's also freedomcalendar.net. Shout out to Max, who is always at a lot of these local events, and he live streams them. So then there's his handle as well, fcalendar.net. But you can find him also on Facebook. And he's got the website where he'll tell you where all these local events are that you can go ahead and check out. And yeah, so that's wonderful. So it was great to see, like I said, some familiar faces, and it was great to see some new faces. Shout out to Debbie and Bonnie. It was great to meet you.
I'm the cameraman, I'm the lighting guy, I'm a host. My eyes are bugged because I just looked at the light. Let's see. A little bit better. Still something a little bit off, but we'll fix it. Thanks for your patience, and thanks for your, hosting the audience while I'm fixing the last camera. There we go. I think it's just a little too big.
Yeah, and we've got to take it down again because part of it maybe. We've still got another wall to.
We don't have to take anything down. We only have that wall to do.
We get to that last wall.
But good morning, everybody. Yeah. Thank you very much for being patient with us this morning as we're putting things back together on the fly. How live is that?
Yeah.
And this is why I've always said, Paula, that you are by far the hardest working woman west of Breton, east of Drayton Valley that does a morning show at 7 a.m. By far.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah, she got up nice and early and moving equipment, getting things ready as I'm putting things up because our guest Cory Morgan is going to be here today. How's your tea today?
Oh, yes. And shout out to my now local honey provider, Cory Morgan Honey. So hold on. There we go. But yeah, what's the
Watch
name?
out, Vanna.
Yeah, Galloway Nest. But yeah, Cory Morgan was at the Whistle Stop Cafe yesterday, and he was leaving just as we're pulling up because again we arrived there a little bit later on in the afternoon. But he sells honey. It's like, we need honey, so picked up a jar. It's currently in my tea now. I'm yet to take my first slurp of tea, so I'll let you know what it tastes. But I'm sure it'll be delicious.
You saving it for when Cory gets here?
No, I've got to drink my tea before then.
But no, thanks everybody hanging out at Whistle Stop yesterday. I got a text message or a message from Bonnie that said all the UCP board members canceled. They were supposed to speak.
Goodness.
And I'm wondering why. I'm wondering maybe are they installing that Alberta Health app and their boss is watching where they go? Who knows? But they all canceled. And she said, "Can you speak?" I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm in a t-shirt, dirty. We're working on this. We already had to cancel one event for yesterday morning. Sorry, Tina. Really sorry.
Yes.
Look at the camera. Give her my putty face. Sorry, Tina. We really were rushing ourselves. We had to get a young man with a strong back to help with the roof, the ceiling part of it. Oh, yes. We probably would have killed each other if we had to do that one.
Oh my goodness, yes. I don't think you would have made it. You would have come back like trying to come down a ladder and was like, oh, where's that last step? No, but shout out to Mr. B for helping us out. A very tall 15-year-old came to give us a hand with the roof.
Yeah. So as Paula was saying, we're just paneling the inside. We did the installation, paneling the inside, getting things ready. Oh, my color's off. We'll get there. I'll fix that later. And one wall left. So we got one quarter left.
One wall left.
And it's got the door and the window in it. So hopefully the sun doesn't shine in here and screw up the light even more. But good morning, everybody. We feel a little bit rushed.
Yeah, we do. Rushed, tired, not rested. It's got a bunch of stuff to get done today. That's life. What are you going to do?
Productive, though.
Oh, yeah.
Very productive.
Productive.
All right, so what's going on? Today's Tuesday. You guys had a recorded episode yesterday where it was jam-packed with information from David Parker. And we kind of touched on the Danielle Smith Alberta Health. Have you given that some more thought?
No, but only just instinctively. I wasn't a fan of it to begin with. Because,
Alberta Wallet, my bad.
Yeah, no, I knew what you meant. But because why? Why do we need a specific app when there's others right now providing it? Now, they could argue, oh, well, that's not secure. But again, you could also argue that lots of things are not, how can they can't guarantee security when it comes to an app, as you spoke to that.
100%. And it's interesting you kind of went that way by saying it's not secure. The other stuff is not secure. What she claims the Alberta wallet is for is a wallet, much like the Google and Apple ones, where it just holds your ID. It doesn't hold documents. And there's a lot of people who are confused online saying, well, this is a decentralized application. All your health information is going to be on your phone. It's not going to be centralized. People can't hack it. You're dead wrong. You're absolutely dead wrong. People are talking about the blockchain, say, no, you're going to be far more secure because it's on the blockchain. You're dead wrong. You don't understand what a blockchain is. A blockchain is a public ledger that just contains transactions. There's no way our health information is going into a public ledger, so you can get that thing out of your head. And there's no way that the only location for your health information is going to be on your phone. All it is your ID. It's as if it's the same thing as your card. It's just a digital version of your card. So because of that, it definitely does not need to be an app on its own. There's several apps out there that will hold your loyalty card, your bank card, all these other IDs, not the accounts, but the ID, the identifier. Now, if you look at BC, they have an app as well. They were out for a while. And they're even using their app to do online authentication, which means digital ID, which means you now have a government-provided internet accessible ID, which is what the app is being used for. So when Senate Bill S-209 comes into play, which is to protect online pornography, children. This is what they always say it's about until
you mean to protect against?
Well, yeah, of course. That's the implied part of that. Yes, to protect against this kind of stuff. It's to provide a mechanism that by law, everybody accessing the internet is going to have a government-approved digital ID. Or you won't get internet. You won't be able to be on the internet. That's where this is headed with Bill 209. And then each province is now issuing the digital ID. BC started. Ontario was working on it since 2021, I believe it was. They announced it. It was a $20 billion initiative. And look, not a conspiracy theory. Go to Ontario, type in digital ID. And read who their partner is. It's the World Economic Forum. World Economic Forum has been providing the guidance for the digital ID on the provincial level to cause this mechanism to be put in place. So Ontario's been doing it for years. They've been piloting it. BC has launched it. Alberta's now launched it. And no, it's not a decentralized, secure, world-class encryption, anything. It quite literally is just your ID on your phone. So you can go up to the pharmacy and tap, and using near field communication, NFC, it will transmit that ID and you can fulfill your prescription. Why do you need an app? Okay.
There's an app for that.
They're now going to argue things like, well, you can fill out applications. Well, if you want world-class encrypted, well-tested and true, has been around for a long time, you do what they're going to do already, which is to use your phone to be the digital ID, but you're going to be in a browser. You're going to be going through the browser. So Chrome or Safari or whatever you use on your phone or your desktop, which is not government-created code, can do exactly what they're saying that they're trying to provide to you. So you can fill out applications, transmit your ID in a secure way without an app. So we've now limited the two things that they said it's for: holding your ID and secure access to their services. It doesn't need to be an app. So why an app?
Could this go on? You finish off that thought then.
I'll finish off this little rant. Because what an app does is when you install it as a consumer, you'll have to, then you have no choice. You can't pick and choose which permissions it gives you. It's going to ask you, hey, you want to install this app with these permissions? And when you say yes, you're telling the Google API or the Android API or whatever the phone is, this person has selected and chosen to give access to the app to these particular things. And I guarantee you, files and photos will be one of the ones that you have to say yes to, because they're going to say we need that for uploading documents. And phone is going to be another one that you're going to say yes to, because they're going to say, well, that's how we access a person. So when we push a button, it's going to dial, and it will dial a person and get to it. The moment you do that, it's all call logs. It's all files on the device. GPS, there's other sensors in there, the accelerometer. It's going to know if it's above ground or down or dropped. It's going to know where you are, and your Wi-Fi and the access points that are around. These are all pieces of data that's always been accessible to apps for various reasons, some non-nefarious and some nefarious. So when the government tells you they're just doing it for your ID, to hold your ID like a card, they could use Google Wallet. If they're telling you, well, we're doing this to secure the upload of files, they could have used Chrome. They don't need their own app. So what they're not doing is telling you why they want an app, why they're spending millions of dollars, writing code that's going to be new, not well tested, full of bugs, lots of vulnerabilities, a hacking vector, which means a place for people to hack to get to information because it's so new. The governments are not known for making secure code.
Off the bat, yeah.
No, for sure. Things need to be matured, tested, and hardened, and patched. And
many things need to be tested and years of data before being released to the public.
Correct. So as a person that worked at the municipal level in the IT department at Stormont Dundas Glengarry over in Ontario, I was a witness to the quality of the coding, the applications, the security or lack thereof. In fact, part of my job as a business systems analyst was to harden things and bring up the level of security. It's not great. And you wouldn't really need to be so concerned about your dog tags and the road information, GIS. You don't really worry about someone hacking that. Well, now when you're putting all your personal information, your driving record, all your interactions with the government, your transactions, your provincial taxes, your business registrations, where all of these are into one location, accessible through the internet by their security, not only can it be hacked, it's going to be hacked. Okay, it's going to be hacked. And they're taking, and that's on a good day, and they're taking World Economic Forum guidance on how to implement this. So they're all following the same guide. And we saw how well that worked with the WHO and COVID. They're all following the same guide. They didn't know why they were doing it, but they knew others were, so they implemented it, which makes this worse. It makes this worse. So you have employees at the Alberta government who's in the IT department, probably smart, well-intentioned, but they're not world-class. And they didn't write this before, and they're just following guidance, and they're doing their best. So when your data's hacked or more data is leaving the phone than you ever thought, and that's revealed one day, come back to this episode. Because this is why the app exists, in my opinion. They didn't have to do an app to provide the services that they say they're providing. There's something else.
I keep saying surface level people. What they're telling you on the surface is, yes, don't worry, isn't this great, blah, blah, blah. What's behind the curtain?
And part of the reason for this rant is I hope Cory watches this episode later to see how he did, how he looked, how smart he is, because all of those are true. And then here's this portion, because he's one of the people who came out early and said, I'm not worried. It's just an ID.
Yes, that's right.
I don't really mind. Everything's already digital. I don't see the big problem with this progression. The sentiment for him, the spirit of what he's saying, yes. But go work in the IT department of government for even a year, because you'll learn. This is a bunch of well-intentioned private or public sector employees. They're not private, not making hundreds of thousands. They're making under 100,000. I'm not saying that they're not good. They're certainly not world-class. And I put myself in that category too. I wasn't world class. I was taking a salary, doing my best, learning on the job. I was awarded as an innovator in that group,
Yes, you were.
which surprised me because I was new. Okay, so within that organization, SDNG, I was one that was able to help a lot with the systems and the servers and even getting things remote accessible in a secure way. But we didn't write our own app. We used Microsoft Remote Access Server because there's no way we're going to be able to write a secure, world-class encrypted anything as government employees. So anyways, that's a bit of my rant because I was surprised to see Alberta coming in a close second or third on releasing that to their population. We don't need it. It's not something that we need. We could have done the same thing with a Google Wallet. If they enabled the health card to be added to the Google Wallet, which is just a little application, they say, okay, we want to provide our card. Here's a picture of it. Here's the format of the ID. And then here's the callback URL, which connects it to their systems. So when you
partner with Google.
Just like everybody else, just like the loyalty cards and the other stuff. You don't really partner with Google. You make your systems accessible for authentication or validation of IDs. So seen, when you typed in your number, what happened when you did that was that number went to their server. And their server just gave Google a yes or a no. Yes, that's a valid one.
Yeah.
So Google adds it to the wallet. No, that's not valid. Sorry, there's an error. And then when you go to use it, when you go to a terminal at wherever Scene is used for loyalty points like Home Hardware, you can tap.
Yeah.
And Home Hardware will say, we accept these cards. Scene will be one of them. And your wallet will go, I got that, and then send that information. All it's sending is the ID.
Yeah.
And then Home Hardware system will now send it as part of their loyalty program. Their systems in the back will talk to Scene server and say, yeah, it's valid. Everything's good. Here's 5 points for your purchase. Bada boom, bada bang. But nothing's on your phone. Your loyalty number is there, but not your accumulated points. When you see your Scene points, it's not through the wallet. It'll be through their app.
That's right. When you bring it up, all I see is my number and my barcode for it. That's it.
Correct. And we lost that camera again. The barcode is to help where there's point of sales. They don't have the near field communication where there's a wireless. So they can scan it through their thing, but it still just contains your ID. And that's it.
There is a question here that you can hopefully answer because it's a good point. Once it's installed, I think this is in general for any application, but let's say once it's installed, if you delete it, it will leave some access to them. So what is that? If
not typically.
So typically, if an application is uninstalled, all the permissions and whatnot that were given to them, where you said yes to, are removed as well. And could that be 100%? Could there be something nefarious where it's not?
Well, no. Okay, so nothing's left behind. So when the app is removed, there's a term called sandboxing, which is how the OS protects your app from being able to talk to other apps and things like that. When you remove the app, everything's removed, and the permissions are part of the app's access. So Google OS will say, okay, well, this app has access to the camera, microphone, not files, not GPS, not phone. And there's, I think, 15 or 16 different permissions that could be there. When you remove the app, that's removed too as well. So no, there's no way for, after the app is removed, for them to nefariously, behind the scenes, some way access your data. That's why you would trust more the Google Wallet, because when you remove something from the Google Wallet, it's Google taking care of the fact that these things don't have access anymore. And it's not like I trust big tech as being super great, but Google doesn't have an inherent desire to know your health information or your driving record. If they ever did stuff like that, the whole company would be gone. So they have a built-in mechanism, a bit of a check and balance for them not to do stuff like that. Alberta Health, on the other hand, or Alberta government, on the other hand, may want to know your location, may want to know if you visited that neighborhood, may now put in services, and they call it emergency services. So when you are hurt, we can know where you are. Like, they will sell it that way and tell you it's for your safety, or it's more convenient. Like when you are in a hospital, we pre-check you in, but they need to know your location to do that. Like, this is how they're going to do stuff like that. And pay attention. And then there's a lot of people saying, well, you can always just keep your card. This is opt-in. For now.
Right.
When the government announces free basic phones for people, which will be free. Even the service will be free, but it'll be very basic, like no caller ID, but you'll have network access. It will have all the data collectors like GPS, and it will be free, very basic. Why? Because they're going to get rid of the other stuff. So they can't get rid of services or access to services, so they're going to have to give you the phone. Right. So when that day comes, and it could be a couple of years down the road, pay attention to BC because they were first, and they will announce it as, oh, we want to connect everybody, and our internet services is available for everybody now. So now this is how you use your digital ID, and this is how you get on the internet. We're going to give you a free phone to make sure you can still get on. When they do that, come back to this episode and watch again, because everything I said here is coming true. And it's not because they want to make sure you have quick, effective access, even though that's what they're selling you. It's because they want more data. Yeah, they want more data on you. Big data has been a thing for over a decade now. When you're dealing with the World Economic Forum and any other NGO that's unelected, they don't care about your health. They care about collecting data on you. Last part of this rant. Sorry, folks. Social credit scores. This is where it's going. There was a leak already from the federal government. They have databases on people. That's not crazy news. That's not breaking news. But what got leaked was the database structure and what's in there. So if you're a registered gun owner, that's one of the fields. If you are a Canadian citizen, that's one of the fields. Of course, your birth date, your name, your address, that's just all given. But one of them was social score. They called it a social score out of 0 to 100. Was the field. It's going to be some number between 0 and 100. This got leaked a while ago. Even Theo Fleury commented on it. It's like, here you go. Like, there you go. They put it into their database. They're going to start calculating a score on you. And it wasn't your credit score. This was social score. Yeah. So here we go. And we see this in China right now. In China right now, you can be denied permission to leave the country based on your social score. You can be denied bank loans. So you can be denied access to services. All these different things have already happened. Now, when I posted that, someone goes, are you comparing Canada to communist China? Like, stop looking at it that way. Am I comparing our future technology advancements to the current technology advancements that are out that control the populace? Yes. Am I saying that we're a communist country? Many would say that, but that wasn't the purpose of that post. So we have a lot of work to do to get information like this out. I'm really glad that Cory is joining us today. Yeah. And I do have to fix that camera again.
I'll go through some of the chats that we've got because there's some good conversations here. Yes, lots of people agree with you. Becky, I agree, Jason. I worked for years in IT program project management for GOA. I don't download or sign up for any of their apps or services. And then, yes, good information, Jason. Hopefully people will listen and take action. And then Dad Dutchman 52, this is hilarious. Time to go back to my old Motorola flip phone. I had the pink Motorola flip Razr. I loved that phone. I was gutted when the battery just died on me. So I went for the blue Motorola flip phone. I definitely remember those. Those were back in the day. Okay, Jason, you can let me know. Does it help to keep your location turned off?
I'll be right there.
And then they used... It's not so easy, is it, to go duck under there?
There we go. We're back. Yay. Does it help to keep your location off? GPS is not the only way to triangulate your location. It has been that way for a long time. When Google was going around with the Google Street View, they were also collecting SSIDs, which is your Wi-Fi's. Not the name necessarily, but it's ID. It's always broadcasting that. And what they did was they mapped all of the Wi-Fi signals all over the place, and they built into their phones. When a new Wi-Fi is installed, the phone reports it and provides the signal strength.
Yep.
And triangulation requires 3 points and a signal strength. And you can find yourself anywhere on the globe. I can prove this. And during COVID, we've now since learned that 34 million cell phone data was being used by the government to track people. This has come out.
Good times.
Yeah. When we were living in Ontario, I left to go and get some propane for our tanks to
literally
eat.
Down
2
the
kilometers
road.
down our road.
Down the road.
And I got a text message that says, go home. Now, they weren't tapping into my GPS. That they didn't have access to. I didn't have an app. Nothing was installed.
No,
It wasn't
that's
GPS. It was the towers can also do triangulation the same way that you can. They can. So based on your signal strength to the towers, they only need 3. They can know where you are, and they did. And when I went outside of my allowable area, I got that text message. So even if you turn off on your phone GPS and location data, they still have your location no matter what. Your phone doesn't have to out you.
Yeah.
The towers do.
Yeah.
The towers, 3 towers, knowing your signal strength to that tower, the tower location is a fixed point. You can triangulate at that point. And they've been doing that for a long, long, long time.
And I never received that message purely because the only place I ever went to was grocery store and back.
Yeah.
So those were approved because I was like, wow, how come I go out more often than you? But it was only because I literally only go to the grocery store and come back. Whereas I guess our little corner store propane provider at the end of our road isn't classed as approved.
I'm going to take it a step further. You're identified as the shopper.
Yes. That's part of, again,
your
the big data
identity
that's out there. Yeah.
was the shopper. They knew that, yes, she goes to that grocery store. She's got to be the one. I wasn't roaming. I wasn't going around. So I was likely highlighted as not the shopper.
Yeah.
And now he's gone. And yes, the second part could be that particular really small, tiny little, we sell expired stuff store. And it said, what is he doing over there?
He did.
And said, go home. So look, you may not fully, and I may not fully understand all the data they have on us and how they use it. But I was in government. I do know that it's collected. More than you would probably ever want is collected. And from time to time, they're like, hey, this is handy. Let's figure out how to use it in a different way.
Yeah.
So during COVID, 34 million phones data was provided to the government. This has come out. And that's every Canadian. Because at the time, we're about 38 million people. So maybe 3 million people are children. But 34 million phones were accessed during COVID for, they didn't release the purpose other than it was used. And this is one of them.
It'll be for our benefits though, right? For the children, maybe.
Yeah, you'll own nothing and be happy. All right, so Cory's going to be jumping on it. Oh, he's there. Hey, Cory. Sorry, Cory. Yeah, we'll get you in 1 minute. Any other comments?
No, but there's your tech lesson for the day, everyone. Hope you had your coffee or tea to brighten yourself up.
And tea, or tea with honey, with Cory's honey.
But yeah, it's important. Like, we don't want to sound like conspiracy theorists, but like this, Jason has practically his entire life worth of tech under his belt. So he knows what's not only capable, what's just literally out there right now.
Yep. And by the way, I didn't participate in doing anything nefarious, but I do know what's possible and what is collected.
Right.
And I even worked in the healthcare portion in my early 2000s before I met you. So I know what they were hooking up scales to the internet for the purpose of, we're just keeping an eye on your health.
You know you're fat?
Yeah, your Fitbits. They even had digital pill boxes. So they knew if you opened up Monday or not.
Yeah.
And they were getting people to install it for their safety. Well, we want to let grandma know if she missed her pills. That's how we were working on this. And there was a lot of APIs, health services, software as a service, SaaS was big back then. And none of this went away. I left that employment when it started to get into, because remember, we almost went to Portland.
Yeah.
That's when they were trying to recruit me into Portland to work at a healthcare company for the purpose of digitizing COVID test results and to use the heat signatures of people as they come into stores to kind of determine whether or not they had COVID, and then keep a score on you for part of your COVID passport and access that to the government. So the government, because they were the one paying for the programs, they said under health concerns and privacy, we would be the only ones that can do it, the government. But they wanted to collect that all from your weight to your heart rate to your heat signature when you walked into a store. I helped learned. I didn't implement it. We didn't get that far. We had to take the COVID vax as part of our job. And I said, no. Nope. So I stopped that. But that's exactly where they were headed with that stuff. All right, let's bring in Cory. Cory, sorry, I've been ranting like crazy over here. I hope you've been checking out some of this. I am a nerd, 40 plus years in tech, and some of the things that I was talking about, you can drop the chat for now. Actually, make me do this. There we go. Yeah. And part of it is the Alberta wallet. So I was talking about some of the tech around that. This is not what I brought you on, but I do understand that you're not uncomfortable with the idea of having the Alberta wallet.
No, not as much as some people are. I mean, on the broader issue of government reach into our lives, I'm very concerned. We've got authoritarians who want to control everything we do, and there's certainly a practicality of us living digital lives that gives the government a single or at least a very narrow means to be able to control what we do or punish us for what they feel are inappropriate behaviors. I am completely on board with worrying about all those things. The problem is a lot of that ship has already sailed. We need to find the means to get the government under control. They've already got the ability to do a lot of these things. We've already seen they can seize your bank accounts. They've always had the means to access your personal information, whatever's on your driver's license, and pull your ability to drive. They can pull your potential to get in for health care because it's all based on a single number that's in a database. I do understand the mistrust of government and the unease of things. I just think it's a little misplaced when people are getting that worried when it comes to this rotten paper, easily falsified healthcare card that we've used for a long time and moving it into a more modern means. As we move into more modern abilities to track people and their actions and their ability, it comes with inherent risks, as you definitely know as a tech guy. But at the same time, it brings us the conveniences and advancements. What we need to do is make sure our government's held in check and quit pointing at the technology itself as the problem. So I do see in this particular case, and it opened up that discussion online, the move from the paper healthcare card number to a plastic and or digital form as actually just an innocuous thing. And we're not going to prevent government incursion into our business by halting the technology that's moving ahead. We have to halt the government. We're looking in the wrong direction here, and keeping hold of older forms of identification and things like that aren't going to stop that advancement. We need, well, it gets into a much larger discussion, and part of why I'm an independence activist. We need to redraft an entire system to make sure that the government's always held in check and accountable to the citizens, rather than worrying about their intent to control us through our identification. I am not dismissing the risk of a social credit system or a government that, again, can spank you so quickly because they have control of all of those things. I'm just saying that we're a lot of people are looking in the wrong direction at what risk is, rather than the fundamental problem, which is the over-empowerment of the government in the first place.
Yep. And my only comment on that is we just lost that camera again. So we're having a little problem with one of our cameras. My only comment to that is if it was just to replace a card in your ID, Google Wallet exists. Other wallets exist. You can even get your Western Standard ID put in there if you guys want to enable that. My concern is the app, because what the app enables is access to more things on your phone than they didn't have before. We just had a little bit of a rant about, your location data. Yes, all your other data is already in their databases. It's what more can they collect by being an app on your phone? And just like you highlighted, there's an inherent distrust of the government. They overreach. We need to put more mechanisms in place to stop the overreach in the future, hopefully. But today, my concern is why the app? Because everything that they said it's for can be done with current technology that already exists, that they don't have access to the code of, and they don't get additional overreach on your phone from, unless they're using Phoenix, which is a government software that actually has access to your phone data, but not one that you install and give permission to. So my concern is just the app.
There's a good comment here from Becky. That card is only used for validating your identity. The EMR already has that info. I don't buy that business case for the digital wallet.
Right. So it's the app, Cory, that people, it's not so much that they're moving us to an ID that's not a card anymore. It's why are you putting code on my phone, and what is it you can end up doing? Because as a programmer, I know the 16 different permissions that they can get access to. So just pay attention, Cory, when you install the app. If it asks for access to your phone and files, and it tells you we need it so that you can upload receipts or something, it doesn't limit it to just receipts. It gives access to all files on the phone. So this is where the concern for some of tech people like us, and also paranoid people, are concerned as well, because this is you're inviting them into a device that currently they're not in. But let's move on to the real subject for you, which is you're an outspoken person about residential school grave hoaxes, and it seems like clockwork. Like it's like daylight savings time. Like twice a year we got to adjust our clock. Well, at least twice a year they accuse us of this as well without any evidence. And as simple as just digging a hole could kind of alleviate some of this. And Cory, not too long ago when Trudeau was in power and he was doing his cycle of this, he was standing in front of two backhoes. In the background were two backhoes. And my comment was to just pick one of them, get the keys, and let's put this to rest. Because why aren't we doing that? So, of course, you have thoughts on this particular issue.
Well, yeah, and I've been upsetting a lot of people because I'm getting more and more blunt with my language, and I understand that for some people who really believe that there's a bunch of murdered children buried there, it's pretty hurtful when a guy like me is coming up there and repeatedly calling it a hoax. But it's a hoax, and I'm sick of it. And when it comes to the point when we see that it's a lucrative hoax, this is bringing it beyond just something that was a mistake or an accident or something that happened. When we see bands purposely identifying possible burials in known cemeteries and they're getting millions and millions of dollars to do it, guys, it's a hoax. If this was for real, they would have dug the hole within 2 days of these radar markings. I mean, the fact that they're fighting any further investigation tells me they know there's no bodies down there as well, or that if there are bodies, they'll be able to identify and realize that perhaps these were not buried by anything surreptitious. Or even if there is, maybe there is, well, then let's get on with it. These oral stories about these supposed murders and burials in the night, this happened as late as the 50s and 60s. It's possible that a few of the perpetrators, though they'd be pretty old, might still be alive. Shouldn't we be trying to find these criminals? Meanwhile, as well, the double standard. When it was discovered that a couple of murdered Indigenous women, it sounded like their bodies had been disposed of in a Winnipeg landfill. The pressure was on. The government ended up dedicating tens of millions of dollars to search the Winnipeg landfill to find these bodies because they said it's so sacred to get those murdered bodies back and have them properly interred by the family. Okay, I can understand that. But why is it then that you're okay with 200 murdered bodies supposedly being in Kamloops and you want to leave them where the criminals buried them? And why not reunite them with the family? But that reignites the other question. Where are the families? How did hundreds of children disappear and nobody said, hey, my kid's missing? Because there are no cousins or brothers or parents or anybody saying that their child disappeared. It's just, but we're still indulging this because of this fear of upsetting the Indigenous activists and as well, of course, government activists who just like using it as a wedge issue to shut anybody up. Don't you dare speak on that or question the realities of it. Well, I've had enough. We've got to demand evidence. This is a divisive issue. It's costing hundreds of millions of dollars. It's causing real emotional hurt for the people who do believe that there are a bunch of murdered children down there. Let's literally get to the bottom of it, open a hole. It's absurd that it's been 4 years since the Kamloops one. And what's got me worked up now is, seeing at the Seashell and others, as you said, it's just like clockwork. The other bands are just learning this is a path to getting more money. Let's keep doing more of these fake radar surveys and pretending that there's more hidden murdered bodies. And then, as with the other one, refusing any further investigation on it aside from identifying anomalies. We've got to call this out. It's ridiculous.
100%. And when I was on the campaign trail for the federal election, we went to a high school and they set up all of these questions. And one of them was truth and reconciliation. And the way they framed it wasn't, what are your thoughts about it? The way they framed it was, we had a panel. There was a trust and reconciliation panel. They came out with, I think it was 94 recommendations for the government. The government of the day has only put in something like a dozen of them. Would you, if you were elected, go ahead and put in the rest? You see how they framed it? They said, okay, all of this exists. It's all real. Now let's see if you're going to be the one that does it. And I stood up and I said, well, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to address the truth part, because we can't get to reconciliation until we're done with the truth. So we have to find out what happened. And one of the challenges that we have is, back in the day, during a lot of this, the life expectancy for children was a lot less than it is today. Children died a lot back then. It happens. So we have to figure out, was there dead children? And was it by abuse or murder or anything like that. We have to get to truth before we can move on to reconciliation. And Cory, you might be surprised to find out that was the end of the event shortly after that answer.
Yeah, well, and yeah, that's what you pointed out perfectly. They make the presumption you're already going to be extreme, even to question the leading question that brought you into it in the first place. You lose the ability to address the premise. It's already established as a truth that you're not supposed to question, and that starts actually guiding our political leaders rather than having them look further into it. It's leading, and this is a massive issue. I've been fixated and frustrated on the whole Indigenous affairs issue in Canada for a long time. Part of it's from 20 years working in the oil field, working on most of the reserves in Western Canada at one point or another. And I'll tell you what, they're dumps. People are living in misery. They're speaking of life expectancies, the life expectancy for a Native man in Alberta is 19 years younger than a non-Native man. And there's something the news sure doesn't like to talk about. Here we are with decades of pouring billions and billions of dollars in, giving self-government all of these things, and we've got a segment of our population dying almost 20 years younger than everybody else. It's an indication that the entire system is an abject failure, and we're not allowed to question it. So I'm questioning it. I've had it, if only for their sake. Who's winning here? I mean, I talk about the dollars and cents, but we're talking about a life cost. We've got this ridiculous concept of reconciliation for stuff that happened 200 years ago by keeping people on racially segregated reserves that are socioeconomic nightmares. And we're calling this a solution. We're calling this compassion. We're calling this better. This isn't moving humanity forward. This is going backwards. And not enough people have the courage to call this out and say it. It's failing. It's not working. And it's failing everybody. It's failing the people who have to pay for it. And it's failing the people living within it. I mean, aside from some corrupt bureaucrats and the occasional chiefs and councillors, everybody else is suffering under this. And I'm going to stay on this. I've been charged by the Siksika band for taking video on their reserve now. And part of that was I took video of the cemetery there, one of the cemeteries. And again, it was off of a highway. There's a sign showing Crowfoot's grave. Come on in. It's a tourist attraction. The trespassing charges are ridiculous. But part of what I illustrated as well is that cemetery, and then the video coverage you see of it, it's completely unmaintained. And that's fine. It's a cultural difference where people are used to non-native cemeteries where the dead are venerated and the cemetery is immaculately maintained. And there's large granite monuments and things such as this. This one, as with many Indigenous cemeteries, they bury the dead and then they leave it. People don't come and visit. There's wooden crosses at best that are put there. And 100 years later, you can barely tell there was ever a burial. And this cemetery is huge. And I showed that to people. So yes, it could take a crook to go out there, and I'm going to call them crooks because that's what it's getting to, and pick a corner of it and start doing a radar survey because you can't tell much on the surface any longer that there were burials. Holy cow, there's burials under here. And then start a whole new scandal. It's everybody's losing. And everybody's not everybody, but way too many people are afraid to talk about it and call it out. And this cycle has got to come to an end.
Now, you even made a quick comment there, a really important one, like nobody's winning. Well, this may not be designed for anybody to win. This may be designed for groups to fail. So some of the groups that are being, kind of targeted by this would be Christians, people that are classified as colonialists or descendants of colonialists, conservatives, because conservatives will definitely, like you and I, say, well, where's the proof? Before we are, saying something happened, let's make sure that happened. And cancel culture has identified a way to kind of shut down conversation without evidence. And we're seeing all of this happen. Churches are being burnt down. That's not headline news. It should be, because that's happening. And we're also not being dismissive of events that may have happened. Maybe it was rough in the schools. Maybe some of the actions in the schools weren't good. Maybe our lines were crossed back then. That's not the conversation. The conversation is whether or not there's missing, murdered children
en masse
that are still buried. That's the conversation. Because if it's true, look, if some holes were dug, lots of bodies are found, families come forward saying, oh, that person was missing, and that's true, well, then we can address it and start healing from it as a nation. But by leaving it unanswered and then declaring what it is or what they say it is, And by the way, this is not just Canada. This is all over the place. They're pitting Indigenous versus non-Indigenous people, or what they call colonizers everywhere. And UNDRIP is a program out of the United Nations, which is using those wedge issues to go ahead and push that issue forward. So whether you're believing into this whole global problem, agenda, narrative or not, you can see it happening on a local level where they're wedging us, people, and causing us to have fights and conversations, and then bring in things like UNDRIP. Do you think there's a connection between this conversation here in Canada and other places around the world and UNDRIP, which is taking away property and passing it back to Indigenous people?
Yes, absolutely. The United Nations Declaration on Indigenous Peoples is a ridiculous document. It's a racist document. It's insane, and it's of a bizarre ideology of, yes, this anti-colonialist, anti-settler thing. It's just, there's no end to it, and using this hammer of social division allows. And I honestly, I got to admit, I don't understand the full end game. I think that the people promoting this are just ideologically blinded, because what exactly is this world you're trying to build? It's leading on now where, every possible public event starts with everybody's supposed to stare at their shoes and apologize for being colonialists and settlers and making an acknowledgement that somebody ran across this land 200 years ago in moccasins, and now you're taking advantage of it without having paid them somehow. And it never stops. And the thing that worries me is they do that in the schools. They're teaching children that you don't deserve to be here. I posted a thing on X recently that I think Jonathan Kay found, with all of these employees at UBC that now refer to themselves, settlers isn't even good enough. Colonialists isn't even good enough. They refer to themselves as uninvited guests on Musqueam land. You guys are insane. But it's building, and it's this social engineering, and in a bad way. The next generation coming up with this collective guilt for stuff that happened 4 generations before they were born. And this hoax of cemeteries just allows them to entrench that agenda even further. And it's causing irreparable damage. I mean, we're seeing now too, with these land settlements being given to, people who already have privately owned property. This can really, this is the beginning of a huge problem that's going to be coming pretty soon. And when you bring division like this, I hate to say it, but this could lead to violence eventually. You're going to start stealing, and I'm calling it stealing, but taking land from people who have owned it now for over 100 years or generations of them, and handing it back on this weird premise that the latest, descendants of a nomadic indigenous group used to use it as a hunting ground. It's got to end somewhere, but I don't know where, and it's not going to end nicely.
Now, another part of this conversation is around the independence conversation. So you had 5 chiefs in the full headgear take the stage and say, hey, look, don't violate our treaties. And you pointed out that the treaties actually seceded the land. Okay, they actually don't own the land anymore as part of the treaty. And another part of this is the question from the Alberta Prosperity Project has been put into the courts to make sure it doesn't violate the Constitution. And treaties, this word keeps coming up, treaties, treaty. Can you kind of enlighten some of the people watching today about these treaties and how an independence movement doesn't violate anything when it comes to those?
Absolutely. I mean, what I would suggest people do first is read one. They're all online. We've allowed so many others and activists all the time say, we've got to respect the treaties. We got to respect the treaties. Well, have you read one? They're actually relatively simple documents. They are, and they had been violated in the past, but mostly over the case of governments sneaking in, taking land that they had initially delegated to the reserve in the treaty. And that was wrong, and that should be reconciled. Fair enough. But for the most part, the bulk of the treaty is saying, the reserve land begins at this river and heads south to that road and heads east to this boundary. And then within that treaty, it also says, and very clearly, and all of those treaties do, they're numbered and they're online, permanently, forever, ceded, no claims any longer. Like, we are signing off on all the rest of the land. It is no longer ours. That's what's in the treaty. And it makes that language as clear as day, that this is supposed to be the final settlement. And the obligations of the government aside from that are very simple. I mean, they're dated. Sure, they're talking about the amount of plows that would go to a reserve, and $5 for every headman and $15 per chief, and a certain amount of ammunition and rifles. Another irony of it is the treaties called for, one of the things that were very specific was education. They say you must bring schools to the reserve so that we can educate the kids so they can have a future. Following the treaties is what began the residential schools. So people saying we got to follow the treaties. Hey, I'm all for it, but you might want to read one first, because they aren't what people seem to think they are. A lot of the obligations and problems that are having right now, that's in the Indian Act. That's legislation. That's not treaties. So when we talk about independence and them claiming that independence violates the treaties, that's just absolutely untrue. The only way that would happen is, I guess, if the independence vote said we're going to dissolve the treaties if we become independent. It's been covered by some lawyers already. The treaties, in a sense, are transferable to the state of the day. Initially, they were signed literally to the crown, to the UK, to not to Canada itself. As Canada became a country, the treaties moved on in 31 or something with the Resource Act, but the treaties moved on to the federal government jurisdiction and then on to the provincial government jurisdiction. There's still the obligation. The land is still there. The boundaries are still there, but they will still be there in an independent Alberta as well. If somebody's proposing to dissolve those boundaries, well, yes, then we're going to have a treaty violation, but nobody's proposing that. But same thing, it's activists, and there are way too many people too cowardly to call them out when they make those claims, and it gets taken as fact. So all I would suggest to everybody, it's a little boring, but they aren't that long. Get online; they're all on there. Search them out, read the treaties themselves, and realize that these claims of all the amount of powers and authority and entitlements that come within a treaty are imaginary. They aren't actually there.
Now, another thing I noticed, and maybe I'm just the only one that noticed this, but prior to the election, so April 28th, prior to the election, there was a lot of talk about improving the Indian Act and improving the treaties and living up to them, because the government's not living up to them. Water, services, there's a whole bunch of other problems. But the election happens, the independent movement happens, and then suddenly all these chiefs want exactly what they didn't want the day before. And they want to maintain exactly what they had from the government, which the day before they weren't very pleased with. So I found that weird. Now, why was it, do you think, that a bunch of lockstep chiefs came on yelling at Danielle Smith, because she hasn't done anything? It's not even her bringing this forward right now, and told her to cease and desist. You got to stop this movement. Don't allow the vote. It's going to violate our rights. But just a week or so before, they were pushing for improved, and they wanted to have things like water, safe water, which, by the way, nobody complains about. Absolutely. The government should be maintaining their end of the bargain, the deal, the treaty. But suddenly, they don't want any change now at all. And I know that Jeff Rath with the APP and several others have come out and said, listen, you're going to be far more prosperous under an independent Alberta. We'll be able to take care of this stuff. We'll be able to honor the treaties, unlike the federal government. And you're correct. They are transferable, as you laid out, because these came under the Crown. Now they're the federal government. They can be under the new government of Alberta as well.
Yeah, well, and I mean, I can't speak for every chief, but let's speak of one who's been very outspoken with that bunch, and that's Chief Allen. He's also who I fondly refer to as a rent-a chief, because it already had been exposed with him that he took $55,000 to speak against the oil sands from the Tides Foundation. So he, among one, is willing to take money to, form his stance on issues, which in any other form of governments would have led to charges for bribery, but apparently it's okay at that elected level. I don't know about the other chiefs, but as I have said, there are some people doing very well within the status quo. And they tend to be, again, senior bureaucrats, lawyers, and some chiefs and others. I don't know if that's necessarily the case with every chief who came up and spoke up, but a lot have an interest in keeping things just the way they are. Yet, as you said, at the same time, complaining about how horrific they are. They're just playing both sides of the coins, and it serves them very well. Getting back to those things, I did a video recently on that with the water issue, for example. Well, two things. There's nothing in any treaty says we're obligated to provide clean water, though we should. People need clean water. But a lot of people don't understand as well that governments since Mulroney's time have been promising to bring clean water. And it's not that they've just been promising and not doing anything. They've been pumping billions into that. But that's why I do my videos, to show how reserves are, because people don't understand the socioeconomic catastrophes that those places are. You pour the money in, you have no accountability. Water management is a difficult, expensive thing to do, whether you got a bunch of houses with their own septic and water wells that have to be maintained by the homeowners, which home maintenance on reserves is a whole separate issue because they don't own their homes. And if you don't maintain it, your water goes bad. I know as a rural living person, I got to maintain my well and septic field or I got problems. Likewise with a town, you have to have a water source, you have to have a treatment plant, you have to have monitoring, you have to have all of these things. And if they aren't kept up, they fall apart. All of these reserves have gotten all of these things. They've let them go. They aren't maintaining them. They aren't keeping them up because they are in difficult circumstances. I mean, even some reserves that honestly want to try, if you're a reserve with a budget, say deep in northern Manitoba, and you got a water treatment plant, where do you find a professional to come up and work within that plant and maintain it and keep it for you in a reserve way the heck up there? None of them even want to work up there. I mean, it's just you have a lack of skilled people able to do it. Water is a municipal issue. If thousands and thousands of towns can provide clean, safe drinking water to people, people should be asking, why is it impossible for reserves that have the funds above and beyond what every other municipality has to get the water there? We keep pointing the finger at the government, and I love pointing the finger at the government on a whole lot of things. But you know what? No, we got to start pointing at the chiefs and councils. Hey, you guys, you got hundreds of millions for this. Why the hell aren't your people getting clean water? Because you got the money. So what did you do with it? But instead, we keep pointing the finger at the government. And the accountability, I've talked about that too. Whether well-meaning or whether it really is part of the UNDRIP thing just to make more division and more problems. But we're giving the reserves so much authority, yet none of the responsibility. And if authority and responsibility aren't coupled together, if that balance isn't maintained, then it's going to go corrupt and it's going to go bad. And that's what we're watching right now.
Yeah, like a local modern scholar once said, more money, more problems. Yeah. So that's what we get. Now, I spoke to a former chief of the Enoch tribe when I was doing my election, and he was very clear. When he got elected in, what he ended up doing was reducing wasteful spending, reducing the salaries, balanced the budget in his first term. And guess what they did to reward him? Voted him out. Because when they don't have a balanced budget and they have a deficit, the government writes a check for that deficit. And there was no accountability. As soon as he tried to bring that in, as soon as he tried to do right by everything, like do the right thing, they voted him out. So he was very blunt with me. He's like, the problem is the council and the chiefs. They have the nicest house on the reserves. Everybody else doesn't. And he also let me know, though, that a lot of people do not follow the chiefs. So within the reserves and the tribes themselves, they all know about the corruption as well. So maybe there's a little bit of hope that if there's a vote for independence, people get to go and put their X wherever they want. There's going to be a lot of people who's not going to follow the narrative that the chiefs are drumming to everybody. I think we have a couple comments for you, Cory, before we run here.
Yeah. So so speaking about Manitoba, there's a comment here. In 2020, a resident in reserve in Manitoba had been requesting medical assistance for tuberculosis breakout. This was going on for months. And what do you think happened? It was labeled a vid cluster. Most reserves in Manitoba are awful. A few aren't too bad. However, more are signing up for UNDRIP. Yeah,
we're seeing UNDRIP make his way in here. BC has already passed it. Federally, they're talking about passing it. And I think this is not a coincidence that all over Australia, all over the place, you're seeing UNDRIP cause first friction and then truth and reconciliation, or their version of it. And part of the reconciliation is to return the land. So I think we're on to maybe something here, Cory. We've run out of time. Yep. But if you have any final comments, we'll give it to you if you like.
No, I'll leave it there. It was a great conversation. Good to see you guys yesterday, by the way. And I just appreciate the invitation and having it out, to talk about these things that unfortunately the people in authority are just too terrified to touch. So it's really important that you bring these conversations up. And I'm just happy you invited me on to talk about them.
It's always our pleasure. And
yes, and cheers for the honey.
Enjoy, guys. All right.
Thank you very much, Cory. And you have yourself a great day, and we'll talk to you soon, my friend.
Yeah, you too, guys. Thanks.
Bye.
All right. So I think we talked about cell phones too much because our cell phone is our third camera. and it hasn't done this before. Usually a restart will bring it back, but we lost it 3 or 4 times on this episode. So I take it all back. Go ahead and install the Alberta Wildlife. We need our third camera.
No, don't do it. Don't do it.
But everybody, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Tech difficulties, lighting, but the conversation was important. Thanks for my little rant on tech. I had some support because there's a lot of people in tech that understand what I'm talking about here. And hopefully Cory, takes away the whole, it's not the modernization of the ID. That's not the topic here. Just like when we're talking about the hoax for residential schools, we're not saying residential schools themselves weren't bad. We're saying a specific part of it is bad.
Specifics, yes.
And in this case, it's putting the app on your phone. Why? There's no technical reason to provide the services that they say they're providing with that. So that's where I want to just highlight that concern there. And as somebody who's written code for apps on your phones, I know how bad it was. I was highlighting Facebook, their API, way before the public figured it out with Analytica.
Cambridge Analytica.
Yeah. Because you had access to everything, the friends and the friends of friends and all their data and all their habits and all their likes and dislikes. You had access to that. So I'm raising the alarm again on this one. When you install an app, you don't get to pick and choose which files they have access to. It's all files. So just watch out for that.
All right. Everyone have a fantastic day. I would say you had your tech lesson for the day. But yeah, have a fantastic day and we'll see you in the morning.
I love you all very much and God bless.